welcome back to Community Conversations. We have a fun show today. We have the new owners of the Southern Hart Brewery, and that is Scott Barfield and Creighton Threlkeld. So welcome, guys.
Hey, thank you very much.
And thanks for coming. This will be a fun hour that we get to spend because we're going to delve into all things beer.
Awesome.
Perfect.
That sounds great.
Before we start with the beer, let's start with the two of you. How long have you known one another, and how did you meet?
I'll let you start with that.
Well, so what, I guess about 2 years?
Yeah, probably about 2 years ago.
Well, Scott and his wife lived in a cove that I recently moved into. I guess it was anyway.
So you were neighbors?
Yeah, we were neighbors. My dock was down a little ways. It was February, so I decided it was a nice day for a kayak. Yeah. And kayaked out, and him and his wife were sitting on the dock enjoying a craft beer, and I noticed the Georgia Southern flag hanging off of their boat, and just passing by said, "Go Eagles." I also am a Georgia Southern grad as well as they are. So
yep.
Fantastic.
And
so you were neighbors, and you started a conversation literally over a craft beer on the lake.
That and the fact that we were, went to the same school together. Right. That's what kind of said, "Hey, how you doing?" So
yeah.
That's
great.
Yeah. So it's been.
And then, so how did you hatch the idea for the craft brewery?
Well, that was probably sometime last year. We were sitting around, and one of the other partner investors, we were all sitting there thinking about where we could go and have a good selection of beer, and then turn around and maybe go. I think we were trying to watch a ball game.
Yeah, we were trying to catch a Falcons playoff. And
we're like, well, where do we go other than your house or my house, wherever? And there was really nowhere to go. So we thought, man, we should do something, because I moved here from Athens and lived there a long time, and plenty of places to go and do that.
Oh, yeah.
And so we wanted to do that, and so the first thing we thought about is opening a tap room where we could have a lot of selections of beer, 15, 20 different kinds of beer to choose from, and a place to go socialize and mingle and all like that. And then over a period of time, we started down that road, and we ended up connecting up with other people with breweries, and we're like, why don't we just do the brewery ourselves, And
so I'm going to ask you a novice question. Mm-hmm. The difference in a tap room and a brewery is that you make the beer in a brewery and you just sell it. Tell me the difference.
Yeah.
Like a brewery, you actually brew on site.
Okay.
And most breweries have a tap room as well. It's just associated with.
And a tap room is where I might come in and have a glass of beer.
Right. Yeah. It's just a room that's got a bunch of taps in it, and there's several along that you have to choose from, and you just kind of taste each one.
And the difference between a tap room and a brewery is that you're making the beer on site in a brewery.
Right, and there's a couple of different ways in Georgia. Georgia's alcohol laws are pretty restrictive.
Yes, they are.
So I was talking to one, actually our attorney, who's out of Atlanta. He's very well versed in this. I think if you literally take the amount of people that live in the state of Georgia, and then you took, how many breweries do we have here? And then if you comparatively looked out west, like Colorado, Oregon, and Washington, about the same population, out there they have over 1,000 craft breweries. We have a little over 50 in the whole state.
So we have room for growth.
We have room for growth.
Yeah. But
it's kind of restricted. There's a 3-tier alcohol system in the state. So if you're a manufacturer, you have to go through a distributor to go to retail.
Okay.
And there's 2 different classifications of brewery. There's a production brewery, basically.
Okay.
I brew whatever beer, however many beers I want. And but if I have a tap room and I want to serve that, I can only serve my beer.
Oh.
Okay. And up until about a year ago, you couldn't even serve food in these places, but now you can do that.
Okay.
You really couldn't even sell beer. You had to sell a glass, and then we would give you the beer for free.
Oh.
But only to a certain amount. But the laws have really kind of eased off a little bit. It was like September a year ago that they started doing that.
Yeah.
And then so what we wanted to do is, at least to begin with, we're going to have a certain amount of beer that we will make on our own. We've got about 5 recipes now. We actually have 3 brand new ones we're going to be testing out this week, and we want to grow our kind of portfolio of beer, so to speak.
So when you say your recipes, are these proprietary to you, or these that are shared among other craft brew?
I mean, there's going to be some similarities in
But do you actually sit there and taste it and say this needs more of this, or are you literally crafting it?
It's literally like a science project.
Wow.
I mean,
It's a really fun.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of instrumentation involved. Measurement is going to be very exact. I mean, you measure how much sugar is going to be, so in the process you brew all the ingredients you think you want to make this, say, a lager out of, and then you go through the front end of the process. You create something called wort, which is basically sugar water. The sugar water is then turned, you add yeast into that, and there's many different kinds of yeast which will offer the different types of taste to the beer. Then it ferments over about a 2-week period. Then you chill it down. There's a lot of steps involved, but at that point it should be about ready to taste. And you charge it with CO2 or nitrogen.
Yeah, or nitrogen.
And then it's kind of ready to drink. So it's kind of like baking a cake. If you want to, all cakes kind of have the same starting point, but some end up being a strawberry cake and some are a banana pudding, whatever. But you kind of start with the flour and this and that, and add the different ingredients to do to it. We have a blonde ale that we're doing, and so we're actually Friday we're going to check out. We're adding a new ingredient in with the blonde ale that will give it a blood orange flavor as well.
So the way that's done is, you got, like you said, the 2-step process. Any flavors that you add on that first stage is really, really subtle on the back end of the palate. Anything you add in that second stage can be very strong. So that's with the blood orange, came in on the second stage. So hopefully it adds a nice citrus flavor to really open it up.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I'm reminded when I saw an old episode of the Waltons the other day. This ages me, I know, and the sisters called it their recipe. Now, I never knew what it was because as a kid I was watching it and I didn't know. But that's funny because you're literally crafting it in layers. So you've got the base layer, which is the sugar and the water, and then the yeast, and then you take something you can add to it from there and change the outcome of it. Well,
even like the ale that we're kind of working on right now to try to come up with about 2 or 3 different options with it. We took the ale, the yeast that we used in the kind of the control. We already have this one, and we changed the yeast in it for the next one, which it'll give it a brighter, crisper flavor. We used a German yeast in that it'll be very similar in taste. And so we were talking a little earlier before we started, there's different styles of beer. So depending on what style of beer you want to do.
And you asked me that question before we started, and I apparently am like a lot of people when you say what style of beer do you like, and I would say maybe Sam Adams or something, and you would be like, no, what style of beer do you like? I have no idea.
Well, all right, so if you drink beer, what is the beer you would normally drink?
I like Heineken. I like Sam Adams. I like a little stronger beer. I don't like the watery beers.
So
I have no idea. I didn't know there were different types.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So
I knew there were
Sam
different
Adams
brands, but I didn't know.
Sam Adams it's another craft brewery. They have very varied selection versus Heineken is a little bit different. It's kind of a Belgian ale.
Okay.
And that would be the thing is, so if you look at Mick Ultra, Bud Light, Miller Lite, or not Miller Lite, excuse me, but all those are kind of lagers, but it's similar to a Pilsner, which is also similar to an ale, but they all kind of have their own
lagers, Pilsners, ales,
IPAs, stouts, ports.
IPAs, stouts, ports.
Yeah, and then it goes off from there. So you look at ales, you have brown ales, you've got blonde ales, red ales,
and different styles within
each
the
one
category.
you look at. Basically, you kind of look at the different malt, hops, and yeast. Those 3 things change everything.
Sitting with a friend, I forgot where, and we were at, I don't know, Yard House or one of those places that serve a lot of different types of beer. And she said, oh, I don't like this one. This is too hoppy. And I just nodded like, yeah. I had no idea what that meant.
Well, hoppiness, a lot of times it'll add, There's a measurement called an IBU, and it's International Bitterness Units.
Okay.
So the higher the number, the more bitter it is.
Okay.
So usually IPAs have a higher number.
Okay.
So now if you take like a blonde ale, and one of the first couples we have like a Kolsch, which is a German, it's kind of
It's a German style Pilsner.
I mean, it's a Pilsner, but it has a lager
aspect.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's just in
the first
process.
thing might be you figure out what style of beer that you like.
Yeah, and see me, I like, you find most people that they either like IPAs or they don't. I mean,
Now, what would an IPA be?
it's an India Pale Ale.
Yeah, Indiana Pale Ale.
So if I'm shopping in a store or if I'm in a bar,
it's
I'm looking
hoppy.
for...
It'll be very hoppy.
What will it be called? Is it brands?
No, it's an IPA.
Yeah,
And so,
It's just called IPA. Okay,
yeah, so you could have a Sierra Nevada IPA, and they'll have different ones. Sierra Nevada, pretty much everybody will make them.
Okay.
It's kind of popular, but a lot of times you'll find people that like more of a lager or an ale. They may not like IPAs at all. But me, I don't know. I like pretty much all of them except sour beers. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, luckily that was another thing. Him and I kind of have the same palate. We're big on IPA, and then everything else kind of falls into place except sours.
Okay, and what, sours are another? Is that another?
Yeah, so there's a sour and a gosa, and those are, so you actually take it and it gets into a sour state. So they're...
Sounds nasty.
well, it's kind of like a sweet tart.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I guess there's a taste for that.
It is.
It's very, very
Develop a
popular.
taste for that, you like it.
Yeah. Well, my wife loves them. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
But see, we probably will not make any.
Okay.
The reason is when the yeast spores that come out, if they get into your systems, they can infect your other beers just because they become airborne, and it's just a bad thing.
The cross contamination with them is just too easy, and most places that do sours typically have a separate facility that is dedicated to sours, and then everything else is done in another one.
So a few weeks ago when the Blue Haven honey people were here, I told the story about, they were talking about making mead, and I told the story about when my mom and dad first retired and they were finding hobbies. My dad tried to make wine and it blew up all over the kitchen, and so my mom banished him to the garage, and so he went to the garage and it blew up all over the garage. So it's a real chemistry experiment.
It actually is very much chemistry, and it's kind of interesting. We've one of the things we did when we first kind of announced that we were going to be doing this, and we kind of look back and we're like, wait, maybe we shouldn't have announced it so much, because it exploded with just all these people. Oh my gosh, you're doing this in Hartwell, Hartwell, Georgia.
Yeah.
And but we kind of put out there, we want to make the place that we're putting together. We want it to be part of the community fabric.
Yeah, this like we discussed earlier. This started as neighbors coming together on an idea.
Places to go. And we'll go and hang out, and have big tables where it's not just you and who you came with, but where everybody can kind of sit together, and if you don't know them, then you can do it. And that's kind of what most breweries are like. Yeah. But we had we did the things because we'd like people, if you have any kind of historic memorabilia you'd like to display here, just so we could put it up. And one guy came up.
That's going to be cool.
No, it is. And maybe whoever it is watching, because we don't have it back from him yet. But he's coming a couple of times. We're like, well, don't bring it yet because we don't want it to get lost in all the mayhem that's going on. He has a 1930s federal warrant, prohibition warrant for somebody here in Hart County.
Oh boy.
He found it at a yard sale. And I'm like, I absolutely want to put that at the bar.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm going to look for that. I hope he brings it in.
But the thing about it is really a chemistry type project, and
is it true that it's 99% cleanliness and cleanup and 1% creation, kind of like? You have standards. You've really got to.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and too, this stuff you got to be sanitized before you start this process, because you are fermenting, and when you getting into the playing with that, it's got to be clean, or else it will ruin the batch. I mean,
that would be bad.
I mean, bacteria gets in there, and you just flushed a lot of time and a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
It is. Yeah, it is ultra clean. And that's the other thing too is you have people say, well, I don't know about craft beer. I like this. And we've had a lot of people, says, I like Bud Light or I like Mick Ultra. Nothing wrong with those beers. I mean, I kind of cut my teeth way back in the day on Miller Lite, but when you brew something and it's pretty much in an enclosed system all the way through until it's ready to put in a keg, put in a can, a bottle, whatever like that, we're going to have tanks or fermentation tanks. We're not going to have them when we first open, but once we get them set up and going, we'll actually be able to pour directly from those tanks. So it's about as fresh as you can get.
And freshness is a good thing with beer.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, so we were talking earlier.
Like
I mean,
things.
you go to the grocery store, you want to get I want some corn, so you go buy frozen corn. Or would you rather go down to the farmer down the street and get some corn? Or the farmer's
market,
something like that.
There's a huge difference. And a tomato, for example, that you can home grow or buy in the grocery store.
So it'll be fresh. It'll be good. And what we'll do, and just to kind of get back to, we were talking different kinds of breweries. We're going to be established as what's called a brew pub. So in the state of Georgia, a brew pub is a place that can sell their beer as well as other people's beer.
Okay.
So we can sell Terrapin or Creature or Thomas Creek or whoever. We can bring other kinds of beer in there. And I want to give people, we want to give people a lot of options. Hopefully they'll like ours the most, but if they don't like ours, hopefully they'll like somebody else's.
Okay. So you'll sell others that you've probably curated yourself.
Yeah.
You either know what it tastes like or you've tasted it before you sell it.
Right, and we'll rotate them through, so we'll have different options all the time.
As our guest last week, Tiffany, said, I told her about the new craft beer, and she said, I said, do you like craft beer? And she said, well, I really like domestic. So I said I only halfway thought that was funny because I wasn't sure if that was a joke or not, but it was, because craft beer is domestic, right?
We'll make it here.
Yeah,
because we make it here.
It's not imported. Well, we could go to Franklin County and import it over here. But,
That's right. That's right.
No, I mean, there's, and that's the thing we understand too. It's like, I moved here from Athens. I moved to Athens from, I grew up in Warner Robins. I went to school at Georgia Southern. When I got out of school there, I went to Texas, working for Texas Instruments. And about 30-something years ago, I went to a little thing down in New Braunfels, Texas called Wurst Fest. So it's like an Oktoberfest. And I had a beer down there called Shiner Bock. Had never had it before. Everybody kind of knows what it is now, but it's a Bock beer, which is a German style beer. Well, all of Central Texas is settled by Germans. All the towns there have their own little breweries. So even going way back then, you look and you go, well, if you wanted Shiner, you needed to go to Shiner, Texas to get it. And all these other little towns, they didn't really distribute it. Now the world's changed and a lot of people are distributing them out more. But kind of what we wanted to do is come in and do the same thing a little bit here, create a brewery here, do a lot of taste testing. We're going to create small batches of beer, not instead of like 400 gallons, we're going to do like 50. And we'll let people try all these different kinds of beer. What do you like the most? And try to do that, because most of the people here, when we did our first testing, they would come and say, what style of beer do you like? And they're like, well, I like Bud Light.
See, that's what I would have said. Well, that's not a style, that's a brand, right? I
said, well, you like lagers. Okay. And so one of the things we came up, we had the Kolsch and we had a blonde ale, which are kind of what we would call a transitional beer. And people would look at it and they go, and they taste it and they go, oh my God, that's actually good. I was like, yeah, it actually is. And so, marketing is great, all these big companies. And look, Budweiser used to be a craft beer. You had to start at some point creating a recipe. Yeah. Miller it was at one point, now they're just giant manufacturing type things. Well, we can make it at home instead of having to go out to eat. You're coming home to do it. Yeah. So, cool. But, we'll create lagers, we'll create stouts, we'll create porters and ales, and we'll have German style beers, we'll have American style beers, a lot of different kind of things. And whatever we don't make, we'll try to bring in and have that. But as a brew pub, we can do that. We can also serve food, so we're going to have a kitchen. So, we're going to have, food and We wanted to have a good options for people to come in. We think having another restaurant component within Hartwell will bring more people into town because you have the new steakhouses there, you have the existing restaurants that are around, and now, well, there's just one more. It gives options to choose. You may come downtown and not sure where you want to go, and it's good for everybody. It's going to help grow the area and grow the businesses.
But it'll bring people in that maybe aren't regulars at Downtown Cafe or Chicago and expose those two, and Jim's Grill and all these others that...
We had a guy way back in the summer. He says, he lives up more towards I-85. And he said most of the time when they decide to go out, they'll go to Anderson.
They'll get on the expressway.
Or go up to Seneca. Because there's more options. And he said, if we get down there and it's busy, we can go somewhere else. But if we go to Hartwell, there's one or two places, and we're kind of stuck.
And if you hit those last week, then you may want to do something different.
Right. So now, within a couple of weeks ago, the one opened. We're going to be opening shortly. I think there's somebody else is planning on moving in sometime in the next 6 to 9 months. You know, you've got other restaurants that are down there, so there's just more options, and not just fast food. There's places you can go and do. And we'll have them. You know, ours is going to be different, and you know, we think having the brewery side is going to be, you know, a different call. I started going to Terrapin in Athens when they first opened, and I loved it. And it kind of went back to the Texas part where, you know, this was different. It was cool. Everybody had their own little thing. But now if we come up with beers, brand new recipes, like we're going to start letting people taste this Friday, then we can, you know, what do you like? And then just do some market research.
People will travel for that.
So. But we, you know, it'll be beer that people from Hartwell selected. And our business model that we came up with, we did not create a business model based on tourists at all. It was just on about 30-something thousand people from a market analysis that was done by the city a couple of years ago. And we said, if we can make this business work here with this amount of people, the tourism stuff will be gravy. Because you go to Atlanta, Athens, Gainesville, Greenville, all these places where these people come from, there's lots of breweries there. And so we think then, oh, there's one here now, so we'll get them too. And
it's different from the breweries where they are, so they may want to come try something that's different.
Well, we actually, at our tasting for the pre-4th, we had a group of 8 people that drove over here specifically from Greenville.
Wow.
Just for that.
Wow.
Yeah, when they told me that, I was like, okay, that's really cool.
We like that.
I wouldn't have done that, but
you were mine.
We gave away like 1 ounce samples that people were waiting 15 or 20 minutes for, and we were floored. And we're like, this might work.
The response and the response that we've gotten from the community has been amazing, and it just solidified the idea of the community. You know, that's been the thing behind this thing is just coming together as neighbors and having a good time.
I love that. I have to give you a shout out. Before you're even open, you're already involved in fundraising with Habitat for Humanity and connecting to the community in a way that most people don't ever do, even after they're open. And so I have to say that's really cool, and that makes me want to come support you. And
well, it's kind of almost an inherent feature within the brewery community. Whether you're here or my oldest son lived in Fort Collins for a while. We go out there. There's 40-something breweries in Fort Collins alone.
Gosh.
And which is awesome. You can rent a bike, drop it off across town at another location, a little thing on your phone.
A little wobbly by the time
you can ride from one to the other to the other, and it's different when you go to these places. It's not like a raucous bar. It's just you're going hanging out. You're playing games. We're going to have this big Connect 4 game that's going to be like this giant, huge game. And we'll have other things that you can do and just having fun.
Like to interconnect people.
We don't have a location like Terrapin or Southern does, but with a lot of outdoor stuff. But I mean, people bring their kids. We'll have a place. We'll have outside in the front. We'll have some tables out there. You can bring your dog. Going down Constitution Alley, right next between us and Bell's Cobb. I mean, it's all open container all the way around the building. And
is there any room in Constitution Alley for a table, or is that too narrow?
We're working on it right now. It's pretty much dug up because we dug it all up on the back end. But in down the road a few months, we've designed the building to put a deck on the top of the building, so we'll be able to have a rooftop deck.
Nice.
So, and you'll be able to take dogs up there. You know.
Oh, wow.
I guess you could bring your cat if you wanted to.
Yeah, you could, or your peacock.
Or your peacock.
So so the idea with the craft brewery is like I said, it's not a place where you're going to get rowdy.
Right.
What we'd like to encourage more so is trying different beers, and by doing that, we'll be offering flights. So it's a the equivalent. You'll get 4 tastings, and it's the equivalent of one beer. It's the equivalent of a pint, but you try 4 different ones.
And see, that would appeal to somebody like me that doesn't quite know what style I like.
And
so that would help me.
You can try a few. If you don't like it, you're not invested.
You pick one out of the 4 or 2 out of the 4. So I want to get.
A glass of that, Or remember it the next time you came and and know what to order.
See, I like trying tons of different things. We'll go to Asheville.
Yeah.
And we'll go to 2 or 3 of these places, and all I get is flights. I'll get 4 of one thing, and then I'll get 4 more, and I just now tasted 8 different kinds of beer.
I like that though.
So, but kind of talking about breweries like New Belgium, which is in Fort Collins, and they have a place in Asheville too. They're all very community oriented. They're all kind of places that they like to give back. Whether it's recycling or whether it's a community cause or things like that. So we had the opportunity in the summer, and I got to tell you, the city officials were phenomenal because we literally had this opportunity, and we had to do, from the day it came up, 2 weeks later we did it.
Wow. That was fast.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I kind of lost my mind a little bit during the process of trying to figure out from the Department of Revenue, because it wasn't on our property. We closed down a section of street around the courthouse, and which the city made happen. The county was awesome because they let us use electricity over there. We had a band that came and all this stuff, and we raised somewhere around $3,000 for them.
Yeah, it was the outpour was
for
the
habitat.
Nice. And that was great. Seeing the community come together for this cause, and like you said, it's such a short period of time.
But we learned a lot.
Yes, we did.
We learned a lot of how things have been done that were not particularly the way that they're supposed to be done. So, the city created really kind of a new protocol after discussions with us, the Department of Revenue and all this stuff. How do you do this from a licensing standpoint? Because you can't...
So you were the guinea pigs trying to figure that out.
I can't take the beer and go take it and roll it across the street over there and then sell it on the street. So there was all these things we had to go through, but we made it happen, and now we know how to do it.
Did I take a little hint there that you might be opening on Friday when you said Friday?
No.
Shoot. Okay, speaking of opening, there's a reason why you're not open yet, and that is because you have done an unbelievable amount of work to a building that has been in place for over a century.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. The site selection process was... You knew you wanted to be somewhere around the square, and then...
We looked at a number of places. We were kind of honing in on Depot Street. We had one place we were going to rent when we were going to do the tap room. Because it was an investment in stuff, but we really weren't planning on doing a kitchen. We were just going to do a tap room and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Then we decided to do the brewery, and we're like, well, it may not be big enough for one thing, but secondly, I'm not putting all that money into a place I don't own.
Well,
so then we found a couple of other spots, and then we found that one that was available. And when I found out how many cars drive by that place,
a lot.
I think it was over 40,000 cars a day, which still kind of befuddles me.
I know.
But until you stand out there at 10 o'clock in the morning and you look down the street and there's as far as you can see, and they never stop.
I know.
And so we decided on that building, but it was... we thought we knew a lot, and we knew there was a lot to do, but we
and this was the building that was formerly in its, and what most people who have been around here would remember Economy Drugs.
It's been a few, I think it was like 1 or 2 things since then, but everyone knows it as the Economy Drug.
As the Economy Drug building, okay.
Well, we've kind of figured out that we think that building, even though the tax records say it was built in 1900, it was way before that. We didn't be able to go through it all, but we ended up having to cut out a lot of the floor, which was concrete, to be able to put All new plumbing. Every bit of plumbing in that place is brand new.
Wow.
Thank you, JL Adams. And,
shout out to JL Adams.
And CWS for the electricity. But we've had, I think we've probably employed more than 50 people so far in that place.
Wow. Very easy.
14 roll-offs that average a little over 3 tons.
What's a roll-off?
It's that big red dumpster.
Red dumpster that we're so happy to be seen.
It's gone.
It's
and it's
gone
not coming back.
I know.
So,
but how many roll-offs? 14?
I think 14
trips, 14 loads of what?
So you're looking close to
40
tons of stuff that came out of that place.
What?
That we took out by hand.
So if you come in, and when you do come in, and you see all the brick walls, because there's one brick wall that's about 100 and some odd feet long going down the left side, another 100 feet on the right side. When you walked in the building when we first, there was not a brick to be seen. So we've literally, when we say gutted it, we kind of over-gutted it. The building is kind of it has an extension off the back. It's where our kitchen is going to be. When we got into the walls and the ceiling in that part of the building, it was completely rotted out. And we ended up having a I-beam that was, well, I'll get back to that. We decided the only way to kind of fix this thing was we just cut all the joists and rafters and we dropped that thing into the floor. Like 40 feet of roof, 22 feet wide, all at one time. And we have pictures, we have video.
Wow.
And there was an I-beam connecting the 2 sides of the building across. Well, it actually fell out and brought down about 25, 30 feet of ceiling with it on the inside. Nobody got hurt, which was good.
That is good.
But you know, it was, when we got in that backside of the building, the construction part of that was done a lot later than the original part of the building was done, and it was pretty shoddy. So with the help of Sid Johnson, he's our architect, we built a room inside the walls. And when we did, we made a flat roof on this back so that we could put a deck on it. So it's structurally supported. The outside walls could fall completely down and the room would still be there.
Yeah, we found the same thing with the Haley building. When we had the structure of the Haley building, we found it would not, in today's standards, support. Back in the day, a 2-foot block and brick wall was sufficient, but today it doesn't meet the state code. So we could have built inside or just taken so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Even on the backside, they used a thing called fluted bricks to build the walls, and the fluted bricks actually have no support structure at all. So there was no way to put a deck on the roof if we used that. So we had to do something different. Anyway, long story short, we got all that done. The smell finally went away after months. Oh my gosh.
Describe the smell?
We went through about 8 to 12 stages of stink.
Well, I could describe it in one word, but I'm not going to right here.
Layers of stink.
Yeah.
100 years of stink.
Yeah, the days of having to do the clothes that I wore up there as a separate laundry load are thankfully over.
Oh, wow.
Earl Cobb sold me a pair of shoes last week so I could go to the Rotary meeting.
Earl Johnson did? You mean next door?
Earl Johnson at Bells and Cobb.
Yeah.
So Earl brought, he said, I said, I cannot wear these shoes. So, we're going to, Suzanne has said we're pretty much going to burn everything I have once we're done. It's just been so dirty in the nasties. But all that being said, our goal was to recreate this building in its original form. So we have an upstairs part on one side of the building. So the building is kind of like you have a low side and then you have an upper side. So there's a room upstairs that goes from front to back. It's about 2,000 square feet. Yeah. And that's how we're going to access to get onto the roof deck at some point. We went up there and we wanted to have parties and other dining and just another place to get into. But when we got into the floor a little bit, we found that the joist supports were 32 inches apart, and some of them were crooked, but the wood was really cool. So when we dropped the ceiling out of the back and tore everything out downstairs, every bit of old wood, original wood in the building, we kept it. And then we tore the floor out upstairs. So we have about 2,000 feet of heart of pine, tongue and groove lumber.
That's cool.
A lot of it was we couldn't put it back, so we kept it, and now we've planed. Well, we didn't plane it all. We just trimmed it up.
Yep.
So our bar that you'll see is going to be an L-shaped bar. The entire front of the bar is from the floor upstairs.
Wow.
All of the columns that are in there are all wrapped in original wood that came from the ceiling, the joists, and the flooring upstairs. We still have a ton of it, and all the trim work, all the baseboards, the ceiling molding, everything that's in that place, we are reusing everything we tore out to do that, and it's pretty neat looking. Even the bathroom doors, especially the women's side, it's pretty neat because you're gonna the whole thing is built just out of all that stuff. So
that's a lot of craftsmanship.
Well, it's a lot of something. Maybe it's a lot of craziness. So
it's doing it the hard way for sure, because you could just as easily or more easily go to Home Depot and get, or Lewis Lumber and get.
Well, we have done that too.
I'm sure you've been a frequent customer there.
Yeah, Home Depot. Like Lewis, I haven't been in there today, which means it's a little off.
So they're looking for you.
Exactly. Adams Supply. We used Andy Adams for the top of the bar. So between Adams, Lumber Supply, Lewis, Home Depot, the top of the bar is made out of about a 23-inch wide, 3-inch thick slab of poplar. And the bar is 28 feet long.
Is that a continuous piece of wood?
Well, almost.
Almost, yeah. Wow. It's all the same tree.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And so then it L's back about another 9 feet. So there's plenty of places to sit at the bar.
So with Texas Instruments in your background, and your background is what?
So my background is I went to Georgia Southern, got my degree from down there, and when I graduated. Much like a lot of people my age, was unable to find a job with my degree. So
what was your degree in?
My degree is in natural resource management, a major minor in geography, a minor in adventure education, and a minor in sociology.
Wow.
I was in school for a while. I like to learn.
You went longer than I did, which is an accomplishment.
It only took me 6 years to get my 4-year degree. So I did that, and when I got out, unable to get a job, and I went to work, doing a little bit of this, doing a little bit of that, and ultimately decided to go to EMT school.
Oh, wow.
Did that, and when I ran my first ambulance call, I got bit by that bug. And for the past little over 5 years, I went to EMT school, paramedic school, and I've actually been working here in Hart County as a EMT and paramedic. And we started this project, and recently went from full-time status to part-time status. It was definitely bittersweet, but enjoyed that career path as well.
Yeah.
But
that's great. That's nerves of steel it takes to do that.
It's a great profession, and you truly get a sense of serving your community in a very intimate setting as far as going in.
Absolutely. You're in people's homes, seeing them at their worst.
And it's there's nothing like being that smiling face and offering a helping hand or just a comforting, everything's going to be all right.
Wow. That's awesome. But neither one of you came from a construction or design background, so this is why.
Yeah, well, I have an engineering degree, even though it's industrial engineering.
Yeah.
But I used to frame houses. Okay. So I kind of think, I don't know. I think I'm more of a common sense engineer. I would take physics as an elective. Those, I don't know. Rather than English, it would just worked a lot better in my brain. So I actually started out as an engineer, and then I got out of that and went in the medical field. Okay. So I've been working and doing medical stuff anywhere from working for a surgical company with Johnson & Johnson, and all the way through the last part of what I was doing for the last 4 years was working in cardiovascular healthcare services. So, working with hospitals and programs and, a lot of management, tons and tons of travel. So I was just done with travel. Yeah. So this is really cool being here and not having to travel and actually meeting people that live in the place where I live. Yeah. But I think part of when I was going, I think my wife and I, we've basically redone several houses on our own. Okay. And, we had one in Florida. We're just good at it. You know, and I have found too that you get what you pay for. So try to do it right the first time. So I really don't like constructing something and then unconstructing it and constructing it again.
I'm sure that's true.
So, but you know, and I'm also one too is we're doing something, building something, designing something. I'm looking at it like, why do we do it that way? You know, does that make sense? You know, we've come up with a lot of creative stuff.
Okay.
Like you said with a building, and you did one of these old buildings. You kind of look at it and you go, how do we fix this? You know, and because there's not just a set way to do it, and then you've got to, like you said,
have to say, what does it want to be?
Yeah.
What does it want to be? And then you kind of work from there.
The building definitely develops its own personality.
It does. You're right. And speaking of personalities, I'm going to bring up the ghost.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Okay, who was there?
I was there.
Yeah.
Just by yourself?
I never said it was a ghost.
I did. I said it was a ghost.
So yeah, I'm sitting there, a month or so into it maybe?
Yeah.
Still a lot of stuff there, and I was there, it was about 7:30, 8 o'clock. And nobody's there. Not really anybody out on the street. A car occasionally.
7 at night?
Yeah. And I just heard, we get people walking by all the time. So you hear them outside the door. The doors are wide open. Because we haven't had air conditioning or heating at all since May. Well, we actually never have had air conditioning. And we haven't had plumbing. We actually have toilets. We're so excited.
Yes, we are stepping into the first world.
We have running water and toilet storage. But I'm sitting there and I heard a kid laughing or whatever, and I'm looking around. I didn't see anybody walk by, and finally, you know, I finally get up and I go look, and there's nobody on the street. And I'm looking around, going, "Okay, that's just really weird." And I'm like, I haven't heard again since or anything like that. It's my kind of ghost UFO story or whatever. But I just blew it off. And but then you told me your story about all the things that are going around in other buildings, and I'm like, well, okay. So
yes, we were in the 30 North Forest, which was the old Vickery Hardware, which is now the Hang It Up Gallery. And I had my office in there up front, and I would hear from time to time someone walking upstairs. Now, the upstairs in that building was just storage for years. So, and it was a trap door, not even a stairwell. So I would think, what in the world? And I'd go look sometimes because it was so prominent. And it sounded just like a woman walking with clunky heeled boots. And I said something to my dad one day about, there's a ghost, and she's nice, but she walks back and forth. And he goes, oh yeah, that's Miss, I believe he said Miss Lucille Richardson or something like that, somebody that had either worked or managed or owned it or something. And he said it in such a way that I believed him. And Kathy and Diane at the Hang It Up Gallery have had some ghostly experiences. At the Haley building, which has a long history just like your building, there was a ghostly presence that hangs around there too. She wears an old-fashioned kind of peasant dress that they wore around the turn of the century. So, and I do know that I do think that the building that you have was once owned, I saw on a map, by a proprietor who I believe was twice widowed and raised his own children plus an extended family member, so he had a lot of children. So I told you that day.
Right.
So anyway, I like to kind of foster those stories, just a sense of history, just because it's fun.
Well, I'm just going to go out there and say, I never said it was a ghost.
You never said it. I did.
But I've had other people go, oh, that would be so cool if we had one. I'm like, it's a good ghost or a bad ghost? Yeah. So, but no, it's interesting. There's some cool things about the building. We're going to do the upstairs pretty soon after we get the rest of it done. So we're leaving all the rafters exposed and stuff like that upstairs. It's going to be pretty neat. In the central part of the building, we have like this big box, that goes up into the ceiling. And we found out that used to be what it's called a swamp cooler, which was like a turn of the century, 1900s kind of thing. Giant fan with a lot of coils around it with cool water, and that was kind of an early air conditioning type system. There's actually one out behind, I think, that place where just like Gina's and all like the G's on the square.
I think on top of Market 50 there's one.
There's one laying over there, but we may turn that into a skylight or something at some point. I don't know, but
that'd be cool.
But we've painted, the ceilings are painted, the bricks are sealed, the bar is up, the front of the bar is sealed. The top of the bar is
We're getting very close.
Being stained this week and sealed up by the weekend or the end of the weekend. The bathrooms are in almost.
Yep, we're waiting on the granite countertops for this.
If we can get our double oven through the door of the kitchen, it will have all of that stuff in there, but it doesn't quite fit. So we're gonna
figure that
engineer that out. We might have to take the sheetrock off one side.
Oh, dear.
But, most importantly, the brewery equipment is under construction.
Oh yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
So
we're counting down now.
Yeah. So we have a brewery that we've been working with. It's kind of help us. We have some good people. There are some people. A guy named Kevin McNerney. Kevin started and founded Sweetwater Brewery in Atlanta.
Okay.
It's like one of the largest breweries, if not the largest one in the state. Many awards across the United States. He's our consultant on this whole project. And then the folks at Oconee Brewing down in Greensboro, we really have established a good relationship with them. It's a very similar demographic. It's on a lake, little small town, in an old building that they had to kind of reconstruct themselves. Their owner, Nathan McGarity, who's been awesome. Taylor Lamb is their brewmaster. He's working with us and helping us get on our feet. And so we have some things going on with them. So we're going to be having a lot of stuff up front, but as we get in, it's open in the very near future. Then as we come along, we're going to have our equipment, what we call a pilot system, will be in a week or so.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to brew small batches. When I say a small batch, we're talking about like about 100 gallons at the time.
Yeah, so about 3 kegs.
Yeah, so we'll do that, and we'll kind of like, is this what we like? And we'll be able to do like seasonal things. Like if you wanted a pumpkin spice ale.
Oh, that's nice. So that'll change.
Yeah, so we can create small batches of things and have them. Our big equipment will have, start out with a couple of 15-barrel fermentation tanks, a couple of 7-barrel. A barrel is 31 gallons.
Okay.
So we're talking about 450 plus in each one, and 4 of those.
Huge.
Yeah.
In the brewery aspect,
it's not big, and
yeah,
it's relative.
But it's big, but it's not.
Well, it's
not
for a brew pub. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
okay, good.
We'll be rocking and rolling for sure.
So, when did you first? Let me ask you a question. Do you remember your first sip of beer?
I knew you. Yeah, I thought you were going to forget to ask that.
one. No, I'm going to.
I'll let you go first with that.
Okay, Creighton, tell us.
Of course, it was at the ripe age of 21.
Of course.
No, my first sip of beer. My dad took me and my brother fishing. We were at the beach on vacation. He took me and my brother fishing. It was late at night. We get out there, and he's got a small cooler. I think he might have had 6 beers in it. And we're out there, and he pulled one out and he opened it up, and we're just kind of sitting there. And he looked at me and he goes, "Go and get you one." And and I was kind of, and he was like, "But you can't tell your mom." And I remember taking that first sip. It was a Miller Lite. I remember taking the first sip and just like, ooh. But finished that, and I just remember feeling so adult at the time.
It's because he was lightheaded.
I probably was. But then so that was my first sip. But now first sip of craft beer, I remember that one as well, and it was also at 21.
Of course.
My freshman year of college, I went to visit my cousin who lived in Atlanta. And went up there to visit him, and he offered me my first craft beer. I never had it before. It was a Newcastle Brown Ale, and he popped the top, handed it to me. I remember taking that first sip and going, "Wow, what is this? Where can I get more of this?"
Yeah.
And
now I do like that one. I have tried that one.
Yeah, and my I don't want to say obsession, but my relationship with craft beer started from there. And I remember my parents, when I was in college, they were like, "You drink way too many just different types of beer." Yeah. They were saying they're weird, they're this, they're that.
But that's what I like. Yeah, like finding those new and
right. I like tasting. It's and
you're in
it's
the
unique.
Right business. Then you get to teach us about that.
Plan on it.
And what about you, Scott?
Well, I kind of term those things as I think it's somehow now everywhere we go, it's kind of, we're going to go to Asheville and visit them. Anywhere we go.
No, we're taking you back to the first sip. You're not getting out of that one.
So probably the first memory I ever have of tasting a beer, and I told you this, was probably I was about this tall, I don't know, maybe 5 years old, and standing up in the bench seat of my granddaddy's pickup truck, riding around in Albany, Georgia, and him giving me a sip of his PBR. And I remember holding it with both hands and just thinking, oh, this is nectar of the gods. It was
you
awesome.
Did like it?
I loved it. And then, but again, it's like, don't tell your mama.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
well,
here's mine. This is me as a teenager, and I can't remember if I was 14, 15, 16, somewhere around in there. But I found somebody had thrown it away, I guess, and I dug it out of the trash because we'd had a lot of people to the house, and my parents didn't drink beer, so it was never in our fridge, and it was in the trash. And I saw it outside, and I said, looked around.
Hello.
It was pretty warm and probably had been there in the trash for a while, but I was interested to figure it out, and I popped it open and tasted it. It was horrible, and I threw it away and didn't think about it again for a long time. So that was my first experience with a beer.
Well, she's adventurous. She'll bring stuff out of the trash.
I know. Well, it wasn't trash. It was just the stuff after the party.
So
I didn't dig through the trash.
There's not any beer left in here.
It's not in the landfill. It was just in the stuff that was going out. But anyway.
Well, I mean, honestly,
so everybody remembers that.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, I never really. I don't know. Probably high school is when I think probably
developed taste.
When I graduated, or when I was growing up, you only had to be 18.
That's right.
So, and I was that cutoff year that every year it started moving up to 21. Mm-hmm. So I was actually able to drink before I got out of high school, which
seems crazy now, doesn't it? But it seemed normal then.
You overseas, I mean, it's not a big deal.
That's true.
But I grew up in Warner Robins, ended up going to high school and finished high school in Albany, and they'd opened a Miller plant down there. So a lot of guys I went to high school with got jobs at Miller plant. Mm-hmm. And so you could get all of these great deals. You get a case of ponies for like $4. So, we would drink Miller ponies, Miller Lite ponies.
That's funny.
And they don't make those too much anymore.
No, they don't. But when you find them, it brings back memories.
Because of all the signs that you could hit those things back then. But
where did you grow up before I forget to ask you that?
Yeah, so I actually grew up not too far from Hartwell, Georgia, in a wonderful town of Elberton, Georgia.
Okay, cool.
So, but I moved up here, once I kind of started working up this way, wanted to cut my own teeth, and was very excited. Nothing wrong with Elberton, but when I kind of, when I was getting older, wanted a town that was growing a little bit.
Yeah.
Into the lakes here.
Yeah.
I like being on the water.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you moved to Hartwell, you and Suzanne moved when? A few years ago? Or?
We've had a house here probably 6 or 7 years.
Okay. And why did you move here you were all over, it sounds like, Georgia mostly. But.
Yeah, well, so real quickly, I was in Dallas. Moved to Tampa. All my kids were born in the Tampa Bay area.
You were further.
And Tampa was actually in like 89, 90. It was actually not very big. There's maybe 300,000 people there. So between then and 2003 is when we moved from there to Athens. The state of Florida went from 6 million people to 19 million people.
Oh, wow.
And it was nuts, and we just wanted to leave.
Yeah.
So we had family in Athens, and every time we come to visit, it was like, this is like how you're supposed to raise your children kind of thing. It was a small little hometown thing. Yeah. And we'd both, grown up and been going to lakes and all this stuff. And our kids were so involved in sports, we didn't really get to do a whole lot of that. And we'd come to Hartwell occasionally to play soccer. And I kept thinking, man, this Hartwell, we're going to move to Hartwell, but living here now, I mean, it's awesome. But we came to the lake a few times. We started renting houses or staying in people's place, and we really liked it. So we once the kids all left home, we started coming over here more and more often. And I traveled so much, I started flying out of Greenville.
Yeah, it's great,
I'd go to Greenville, I'd fly back here. Suzanne would go to Athens, come back here, and I found out, I hadn't been home in weeks, months. So we just decided to get out of Athens and move up here full time. And so we've been here about 2.5 years full time.
Great.
And love it.
That's great.
I mean, it's really nice living in a place where people come to vacation.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, we go out and look on our dock or even anywhere around the lake, and you see the sunsets that we have here, and people are like, "Oh my God, you live there!"
I know.
It's awesome. It's a great little place.
We're so lucky. Were you surprised when you announced that you were opening this business at the support that you got from the community?
I'd say yes and no. I mean, we knew that we would certainly get some because craft beer has exploded over the past couple of years, which is great if you like it. But I tell you what, the outpour of love and just, everyone wanting to share and just be a part of it has been great. I mean, very, very excited about it. I mean, it's been not overwhelming, but
I thought it would do
good. It's
good.
Rewarding.
I thought it would do good, but it's kind of funny. And we've had a slowdown a little bit, but when we first kind of put it out there, and so kind of how we went from the tap room to the brewery thing, I met someone here, Michelle Weathersby. Michelle actually was from Albany as well, and I was like, oh my gosh, I knew everybody she knew, and but she didn't go to high school. I think she was in boarding school or something. So I didn't really know her, but I knew her name, and her family was in pecans, and pecans down there are huge. She knew some people down in Albany that had started a brewery. We ended up talking to them, and they thought about coming up here and starting something up here, and then we kind of just, long story short, we said, you know what? I think we can just do this.
Yeah, maybe it makes sense.
But we decided to say, we're going to do it. We're going to start the brewery. And I've got 3 investors along with myself. And, the whole goal was to try to use as many people, as many resources, everything we could do that was Hartwell based. And we don't want to go to Atlanta and get people here or this and that.
That's good.
But when you put the Facebook page up, and it went from like 0 to 1,000 in a week.
Wow.
And then it just kept going. We just kept going, oh my God. It's just like boom, boom, dozens. You just sit there and watch it click and click. And we're like, okay, well, people are excited about it. And then we did the taste test. We had 500-600 people show up to that.
Yeah, estimated.
We had 4 kegs we went through with 1 ounce pours.
Yeah, we estimate because we had a lot of people write down their names and numbers that we've compiled into a list, email list and things like that. But there was a lot of people that didn't, and we had, I think it was around a little over 300 into that.
Oh no, I remember exactly. It was like 378 people filled out a survey.
Wow.
So
yeah,
that's great.
And then we knew that there was not very many more out there. There was a lot of people that did not do that. So we knew there were tons.
There's tons more that,
Well, we stood there, started pouring at 8:30 in the morning.
Yes.
And I finally looked and said, man, my feet hurt. What time is it?
It's like 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Oh, gosh.
And it's like, no wonder I'm hungry. And then we finally got everything closed up, and we were sat down outside. Like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Some guy pulls up in a pickup truck and says, you guys still got any beer? I'm like, come on, man. And we poured, I think we had maybe 4 full glasses of beer left out of 4 kegs.
Wow. Fantastic.
It was pretty good. And we did the same thing at the Habitat. We
went through more there.
Yeah, we went through more there.
Yeah.
But,
well, that's good. Well, we're going to follow the Facebook page to make sure that we know when you open. I'm a little weary, though, because I know that, or I guess leery is the better word, because you are probably going to be slammed when you first open. So I don't know.
Well, we have some thoughts, and I don't know, nothing is in concrete and all like that. But I will tell you a story that the guy at Oconee Brewing told us, which was great. They kind of had a similar thing as they were getting ready to open. And now the city of Greensboro has like, I don't know, 5,500 people in it.
Yeah, the actual city. Yeah,
just the city proper itself, and then, but similar all around. What they decided to do was give out tickets.
Okay.
So you get a ticket, then you could come. So they have an outdoor space, a pretty big one. So they gave out 800 tickets. They had 2,700 people come.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of scary.
Yeah,
a lot.
So we're going to be very, very busy.
I don't think something like that will happen, but I think
it would be a good problem, but it would.
Well, and we want to make sure that we, the whole thing about it is people want to come, we want them to enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't want people coming and
getting frustrated because they can't get in.
Yeah, so we're going to try to time it out of how we do certain things, and we'll announce it, and we'll come up with a way that we may do we may do something like that. You know, it's like we'll post, hey, look, tickets are available, come get them, and you can come this night or this night or this night. But at the end of the day, we want people to come and try it, but we want them coming back.
Yeah,
so we want to give them a good time.
And have a good experience. Okay, well, we're going to close with a couple of fun beer facts.
Okay.
Did you know that in 1620, the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock? Why? Because they ran out of beer. That's true, because it's on Google. George Washington had his very own recipe for homebrew. Let's see, back in 4300 BC, Babylonian clay tablets contained recipes for homebrew.
Yeah.
Health benefits of beer: decreases heart disease, stroke, and diabetes, reduces the risk of kidney stones.
I should be pretty healthy.
You should be pretty healthy. And then, so I'm going to close with a word. Here's a new word. Okay, it's called Sinosilicophobia. Sinosilicophobia. And that is the fear of an empty beer glass. So thank you guys for coming on. Scott and Creighton enjoyed it so much. We'll look forward to when you open.
All righty. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see y'all next week.